Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome to Bengals on the Brain. I'm Joe Goodberry, and the show is brought to you by First Star Logistics. And I have my First Star gear on because, I want to throw something white on for the game this week. I almost forgot that the Bengals-Jags Monday night game was going to be a blackout from the Jags side and the white Bengals uniform from the Bengals side. And that's awesome, number one. I mean, it stinks. I had a lot of people saying the same thing, that my first feeling was, I don't want them to wear these without Joe Burrow. I don't want them to look so good in these. Oh, I'm going the wrong way here. In the white helmets without Burrow. They're undefeated so far wearing those. What was it? The Dolphins game, Steelers game last year in Pittsburgh, right? And then it was the Rams game this year, and now they got to go to Jacksonville. Actually, I'm going down there too, so we're going to get a lot of content. I'm going to get to that. But I haven't been to a game. So I'm going to this one. I haven't been to a game that the Bengals have lost since 2011, I want to say. Bengals Ravens to finish out the season that year. They needed to win to get into the playoffs. They lost, but the Broncos beat somebody. I can't remember exactly how it went, if that's even the right team. And the Bengals ended up getting in anyway. So we're watching they put up the scoreboard and kept showing us highlights of, I want to say it was the Broncos. It was like the Tim Tebow era, right? Hard to remember now. That was 12 years ago. But I've been to a lot of Bengals games since then, and they haven't lost any of them. So I'm going this week, courtesy of First Star, bringing us down there. There is a beach house they've got about 2.5, 3 hours away from Jacksonville, which we'll be staying at this weekend. There'll be a lot of content. Stay tuned to the channel, to the show on Twitter at Joe Goodberry, Malik Wright, and check out First Star Logistics, obviously, on Twitter. If you follow us, and there's going to be other guys too. Everyone from Malik's show is going to be down there as well. So I'm going down with my brother. It's just going to be, we're going to have a good time. We're going to hang out. We're going to watch the games on Sunday. If you want to watch some of the games with us, be kind of an interactive thing. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. And then we'll go to the game, of course, and create some content there and have our takes right after the game. Excuse me, right after the game. And hopefully the Bengals come through with a win on this one. If you're one of those people that are still into that, like, again, we're in a no judgment here. If you want them to have the highest draft pick possible by any means necessary, I'm not going to say rooting for losses, but whatever means requires, hey, the Bengals can win all their games. As long as the other teams that pick below them also win all of their games, you can still remain at the 15th pick, is where the Bengals are at right now. On the other hand, they could get back to 6-6. Maybe the offensive game plan changes completely with Jake Browning in week 2. They did do a little bit more play action. I'm saying week 2 with Browning. Last week, a little bit more play action than what's normal. I was looking at data today, bringing up numbers, and because I wanted to see what the pre-Zac Taylor Bengals offense looked like, what the Zac Taylor without Joe Burrow offense looked like, and then what the Burrow and Zac Taylor marriage has produced on offense, and what do they like to do. There's a lot of criticisms of Zac Taylor as an offensive coordinator, play caller, however you want to call it, because, I mean, they do have Brian Callahan in name as the offensive coordinator, and it is a group effort. I've talked about this before, but Troy Walters, the receivers coach, Dan Pitcher, Frank Pollock is the offensive run game coordinator. All of these guys have packages. Some of them, I think Walters has red zone. I think Dan Pitcher may have third down, or maybe Brian Callahan has third down. Don't remember off the top of my head because they don't really give you a full breakdown. But from what I understand, it's a collaborative effort to design the offense, game plan the offense, and even call the offense on Sundays, Monday in this case. So a lot of criticism of the offense, and there's fair criticism there because the talent on this side of the ball, other than the offensive line the last few years, this year you have enough talent in the offensive line, but in previous years you clearly did not, and it held the team back. But you should have scored more points. You should have been more effective. There was too many lulls, too many down moments in games, in the season stretches. that I've seen a lot of sentiment, and we even get them in the comments down below. Now tell me, maybe that's the question for today. Would you fire Zac Taylor? Or are you saying you don't want him to call plays anymore? Because I see a lot of comments online. I like this stuff. I like to engage with the guys, whether it's on Reddit, whether it's on Twitter, or even in the YouTube comments here. I get a lot, and I don't know if they're just trolling, just letting off steam, just upset with the situation, but it's fire Zac Taylor. And those people don't want to engage in any other conversation. They don't want to talk about the offensive line. They don't want to talk about getting a tight end or a running back or what to do with T. Higgins. It's nothing's going to happen until you fire Zac Taylor. Are you one of those people? Or are you, maybe we should try and let Brian Callahan call plays more often. We don't know how often they actually do that, right? There's no flag they hold up and say, now Brian Callahan is calling this play. So we don't ever get an idea. It might be nice to see it and have him say it. Hey, in the final, 4 weeks or whatever, we're going to let Brian Callahan call the plays. Let's see if anything changes and see what the results are. I wouldn't be against that by any means. I think that'd be actually, I'm just first time I'm thinking about it is right now, but I don't think that would be a bad idea at all. I know he's called plays for preseason games. I know he's called situational stuff for the Bengals. So, yeah. But I looked at data. That's where I wanted to get full circle now, bringing it back to my point. I looked at the data, and under the Joe Burrow, Zac Taylor era, they've been they should been in shotgun, not under. I don't want to say under center. They've been in shotgun at least 75% of their snaps. And it really got heavy last year for the second half when they were about 97% in shotgun. And I've had a lot of people say they're running a spread offense. This is Zac Taylor's offense. He's very pass happy. He's in the shotgun too much. I just want to say I think this is a Joe Burrow thing. And I think this is more of a resemblance of the LSU offense that made Joe Burrow as good as he was. I mean, why wouldn't you? You have right now Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, your two best players, your two cornerstone players. Why wouldn't you have an offense that they ran in college that was successful for them? And it's been successful for the Bengals. It's not like they've been poor on offense the last 2 years, not including this year. Clearly, when Burrow's been hurt, whether it's coming back from an appendectomy or the calf, they've had offensive struggles. That's to be expected. But when he's been healthy, their efficiency is normally top 5. Their explosive rate was the highest in the league in 2021. Their efficiency versus cover 2 and shell defenses became number 1 last year. They became a very efficient team. And I know I'm using that word a lot, but that's what you want to be when you can't have the explosives. So when defenses took away the explosives, they had to adjust, and they did. And they found a way to be a highly efficient offense. Now, I feel like we could see easier plays, easier reads and throws for Joe Burrow. Don't make him be Superman all the time. Don't make him get to the line and read everything and be 100% correct throughout an entire game. That's tough. That's hard on your quarterback. You got to give him some mental plays off. And that includes the run game. And you do need to lean on the run game. And I see the way the league is changing. And I see the way the league is leaning more into the 2 tight ends, less of the 3 wide receiver sets, and taking advantage of lighter, faster, quicker defenses that have evolved in order to cover the spread offenses and the 3 wide receiver sets. You would think that this would be a good time to try and see how much of that you can run. Because if you remember, Zac Taylor coming from a Rams Sean McVay tree in 2018, the year Zac Taylor was there before they left, they were under center 65% of the time. They were in shotgun. I think it was 34%. The least amount in the entire NFL. So is that a Zac Taylor thing that they're in shotgun now? Or is it a Burrow thing? So the first year with Andy Dalton and Ryan Finley, they were at 65% shotgun. So they've gone from 65 to 75 plus. I don't have exact numbers because do I count the week 11 games where I only played half the game versus Washington and then versus Baltimore? It's 75, 76 in that range that they're in shotgun now. Running the ball, run pass rates, the pass rates have increased under Taylor and Burrow to the point of this year being the highest. And I wonder if that was because of the quick passing and the screens, the RPOs, the, hey, we don't want you under center and doing a full handoff, especially in wide zone where you actually got to burst out away from the center to get the ball out. And so we're going to install a lot of RPOs and bubble screens on the backside of plays. So if you see it, it can be an extension of the run game, Joe. You can turn out, flip it out to Jamar Chase, let him pick up 5 yards. That's like the run game. If you look at it that way, I don't mind the run pass ratio. If you say those screens are runs, yeah, I don't mind that, especially the way the offensive line has been inconsistent in opening up running lanes. What I do think is most likely, and I've talked about this a couple times now, and I don't want to get too crazy still with 5 weeks left to go, but I do think Frank Pollock and the run scheme are going to be the biggest focus and be the biggest areas where we say, hey, if this team is going to find their next step, find their next footing, the next phase, it's probably going to look different up front, and it's probably going to look different in the run game. So is now the time? Is this now? Will they realize this? And will they say, hey, we've got to be different. We've got to be a different type of running team. We got to be able to go heavy. Maybe we get a fullback. Maybe we have a tight end with some size. I mean, you do have Drew Sample, don't get me wrong, but I would like Drew Sample to be a little bit more of a receiver and athlete. He's having his best receiving season, so I don't want to kill Drew Sample over here. But if that wide tight end could move and catch, that would be a big help. Because let's face it, you have Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins in the last month of being Bengals, potentially. We'll see what happens with Higgins, but if they even should do it, that'll be a whole episode. Should they even extend Higgins if they could? Should they franchise T. Higgins if they could? Or do you say, we need to be different? We need to use that money on the offensive line. We need to use that money at a pass rushing defensive tackle position. We need to use that money for a good number 2. He doesn't need to be spectacular. And we could take the other and pay for a tight end. If you could get a tight end and a number 2 receiver for the same price of a T. Higgins, let's say a Darnell Mooney and a Dalton Schultz in free agency for the same price of T. Higgins, would you do that? So if you could, and that's on the table, is that when you say now we can start to switch up our offense a little bit? Do we want to be a 3 wide receiver, spread it out, shotgun team so much? And if you don't want to, and you want to stay ahead of the curve, that is of where offenses seem to be going and having the most success right now. And we're getting too far. I'm just talking out loud as I'm looking at this game. T. Higgins, who did practice limited on Thursday. Same with Cam Taylor-Britt, also limited. So while I'm talking about that position right now, let me get that out of there. If you can switch to a different type of running back, someone that's more elusive, can rip off longer runs, more speed, maybe a guy that works with athleticism rather than raw brute strength that Joe Mixon does, and then find a number 2 that's more of the power guy, that changes your offense. Having a legit 1 and 2 tight end, that changes your offense. Having a slot guy with speed, and maybe you can give him the jet sweeps and the reverses and the screens and Charlie Jones. He's had 8 snaps so far this year. So we got to see Charlie Jones before we can even be sure of it. If you go all year and you end up with 25, 30, 50 snaps of Charlie Jones, is that enough? Is that enough to say you're our slot guy going forward at 26 years old next year, right? I don't think it is. I don't think that stops them from drafting a receiver. If we don't see one deep ball to Andre Yosivas, is that enough for him to be our number 2 next year? I need to see more. I think we all do. Chase Brown, that's who the Bengals and Zac Taylor and Brian Callahan continue to talk about. Almost to the point of, I wonder is this a Chris Evans situation? Like, they haven't used him yet. They used to say they like Chris Evans all the time. He's doing the right things. His time is coming. We didn't find a way to get the section of the playbook into the game. Well, I don't like hearing that Chase Brown only has a section of the playbook. He has a certain set of plays that you're trying to get to. He can't run the entire thing. Don't like that at all. But is this era over? As the haters on the internet would like to say, the Bengals window is closed. While Joe Burrow would say, the window's always open with me at quarterback. I actually agree with both. So the window they did have with the three receivers, with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, all three aren't coming back. I mean, that's done. At best, you get two of them back. At worst, and I don't even want to say it that way, because it wouldn't be such a bad thing to use those resources elsewhere. It wouldn't be such a bad thing to get different types of guys on the offensive roster. But at worst, you only have Jamar Chase next year. And that's just kind of how it goes. If you're going to keep your cornerstone players, who are they on offense? Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, and that's it. Everybody else is replaceable and has to be replaceable. You have to be able to replace them. This is something I touched on it 2 episodes ago, I want to say. Yeah, it had to be. The last Friday episode where I talked a bunch. And I'm doing that again here. But this is something I'm coming to the realization while I'm watching other teams around the league more, right? My eyes are on them as much as the Bengals because of the situation we're in now. But it's always a quarterback league, right? It's got to be a quarterback league. It still is. You need a guy that can make all the throws, that can be smart, throw with power, with accuracy, with touch, with timing, with anticipation. A guy that can move in the pocket, a guy that can escape. I think that's the biggest thing why A.J. McCarron's probably not seen as a viable backup around the league is because he can't move. He never could. And he doesn't have a great arm. I mean, that just, in today's NFL, that'll kill your offense right then and there. We'll probably see McCarron at some point, right? I'd assume so. But besides the quarterback, you look around the league and these teams are getting they're not pinning their hopes on like a quartet or a trio of stars. They don't usually typically have stars at receiver, at tight end, at running back, or quarterback, receiver, running back. They're, well, at least not all veterans that they're paying. If they do, it's because they drafted them, they hit them all right now. And that's kind of how the Bengals had it. They drafted Burrow, they drafted Higgins, they drafted Chase. Let's go. And they're only paying Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd. It makes your weapons really good and cheap. But then you see like the 49ers, and they're paying Debo. They're paying Christian McCaffrey. They're paying George Kittle. But they're not paying Brock Purdy. They're not paying Brandon Ayuk yet. So they've got a good, healthy mix. So when we get to the point that we're paying Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, the Bengals are paying them, you're going to have to get young, cheap, energetic excitement out of the tight end spot, the running back spot, the other receiver spots. And that's why I mentioned on the last show, like I think it was this. See, it may have been the post-game stream I did, not on this channel, or on Twitter in a conversation in a spaces, maybe. I'm sorry, I get it mixed up. But I think what I want to say is that I didn't say here, now that I'm saying it out loud, that the next probably 2 draft classes I think are going to be offensive heavy. When they've gone the last 2 now defensive heavy, right? Dax Hill and then Cam Taylor-Britt. And then this year was Miles Murphy, DJ Turner, and Jordan Battle. You're going heavy defense, and you're kind of leaving offense out. But they went heavy offense to start the Zac Taylor era, right? From Jonah Williams to Joe and T. Higgins, Drew Sample in round 2, Jackson Carman and Jamar Chase. And now that we're going to reset next year, how many of those guys are you going to have left that are contributing or good players? Joe and Jamar. I could see Jonah being gone. Drew Sample is at best a role player. So it's time to reset that. And you got to hit at a higher rate, man. You can't pick all these second round offensive guys, the Drew Samples, the Jackson Carmens, and expect to, have something. T. Higgins, obviously, clearly a hit. T. Higgins with the 33rd pick, but we'll see how high they pick this year before we get too excited about what you could and couldn't get with a top 10 round 2 pick. That sounds great. We've been picking in that range in the first round, so I'll take a Dax. I'll take a Miles Murphy at the top of round 2. I have no problem with that. Those are solid young players for that investment. But your next phase of your offense is probably going to be built in the next 2 drafts. Grab an offensive lineman and a tight end. Grab a running back and a receiver. Whatever it may be. But it's probably going to be built. And the excitement and the fun, the explosives are going to come from those guys and from being different. And when you have different types of players and you have weapons that maybe now you hit on a tight end or you hit on a running back, a nice, fresh, young running back. Can Zac Taylor change this offense and get it to where they need to be? Can he run more under center? Will Joe Burrow want to run more under center, play more under center, do more play action? They typically do more play action also when Burrow's not in the game. I think it's 18%, 18.7 to 23.5. 23.5% when it's Andy Dalton, Ryan Finley, Brandon Allen, and now Jake Browning, play action. It's 18.7% with Joe Burrow. So they're under center more, and they do more play action with the backup quarterbacks. So is it a Burrow thing? Will Burrow embrace it? I think Burrow just wants to win, so I think he would. But these are the questions I have. I think out of necessity. Do you build? So that's part 2 of the question today. If you're still watching now, and I hope you are, make sure you give us a thumbs up and a like and a subscribe if you have not. Would you try to build the next phase of this offense to mimic what we already had? 3 wide receiver sets that with receivers that can dunk on anyone and beat anyone at any time. With a power running back. A good one. A good, second round. He was at times a top 10 running back. Or would you try to do it differently? Would you rather have a different type of running back? A different, actually good tight end? I don't think they've actually had a good tight end since Tyler Eifert and Jermaine Gresham were a duo, and they were really good. I mean, they had their flaws, don't get me wrong. Gresham was a robot with robotic hands and fumbled, but he was powerful, man. Strong. And then you have Tyler Eifert, who had his injury issues, wasn't a great blocker, but ball skills for days and could run routes. If you could have one of those guys, that changes your offense. Is Burrow cool with that? Is that what he wants? Or does he want another number 1 receiver? And we're here with the 15th pick, and they're drafting Jamar Chase already at the 1 spot, and then it's Malik Neighbors from LSU at the other spot. And let's go. Cover us. We're going to score from any point in the field. That sounds like fun too. So I'm not against it. I'm just wondering if you chase the next phase of this offense, and do you have faith that Joe Burrow and Zac Taylor can do it? This has been Bengals on the Brain. I'm Joe Goodberry. Make sure you look out for the content coming this week. Heading into this Jaguars game, First Star's flying us all down there. We're going to have a great time. We're going to put up a lot of stuff. So make sure you get involved. And then we got the giveaway for Monday night. And if you haven't entered into that yet, that's the pinned tweet on First Star Logistics Twitter page, where they're giving away the cooler and the Blackstone grill, which is awesome, especially if you like to do any type of like hibachi grill type stuff. Or see, I make like Italian sausage, and I do the peppers, onions, and the garlic and all the seasonings on it, and just let it grill on that Blackstone and chop it up. That thing's awesome. Can't wait to use it again. It's snowing outside right now near Western New York, but I'm going with, because Bengals don't lose when I'm in attendance, Bengals pulling off the upset 23-21 with a kick from Evan McPherson at the end. Bengals win. Uday. Till next time.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.